And furthermore, it's not food as real as it could be, which, maybe that's sort of an artificial thing. But at least in terms of taste, it means a little something. And probably in terms of health, it means something too. And in terms of being sustainable. I just looked all this stuff up. There is some debate. I'll give a couple links to the other thing about whether, okay, is this really, this is for several criteria. Organic food is healthier. Organic food is better for the environment. Organic food tastes better. Organic food. There's some debate in all of those categories. But in general, I like the thing. And by the way, what are we talking about? Well, you may have guessed that since I'm talking about putting all sorts of pesticides in your crops, all sorts of hormones injected into the cows, all sorts of antibiotics used sort of indiscriminately. Organic food is not that. Organic food is food that just comes out of the ground or out of your livestock, whatever, like the way it was meant to be. Sort of fed by its own organic components. Cows being allowed to graze. Cows being allowed, it's kind of hard to argue anything in regards to animal rights when we're talking about cows that are raised to be killed. But you could have an argument against, them being sort of shuttled in like a little box and you can't even turn around. And maybe, no one particularly cares how the cow feels about that, but it might be bad for the health of the cow and thus the health of the meat or milk that it produces. Another thing, not every cow is killed. If you're talking about a milk cow, perhaps you're a vegetarian, you don't want to eat the cow, but you have a problem with the milk, and then, well, do you want to mistreat the cow? That matters to you? Now, I first heard of organic food a few years ago or something, I forget when. It sounded like an interesting concept. I heard of it, that's it from, this group that does these little videos on the subject, and it had a nice humorous way of pointing out that the way we're currently making our food may not be the best way. And by the way, this says in other things, the corporations, global warming, random pollution, random crap. Get the sense that, I want to make sure this stuff is actually good for us. Like McDonald's passes off as food, and technically it is, but it's not real food. And then it turns out that even the tomatoes you buy at your local grocery store, we could do better with the tomatoes. We could, for instance, not spray them with crazy amounts of chemicals and such. Not saying that each and every artificially induced chemical or agent or whatever has to be bad. It's true, people can take this too far, come up with sort of a bias against it. In the same way that some people think that everything that's natural has to be good for you. Technically snake venom is natural, and it will kill you, right? Lightning is a natural phenomenon. It's also deadly. Similarly, an artificial component is not necessarily bad, but looking at studies and such, I'm not entirely convinced that we know all the various implications of chugging a whole lot of hormones into our cows, or a whole lot of chemicals onto our crops, or a whole lot of just anything when it's controlled by somebody who's, out to make a buck, which I guess everyone is. You're allowed to make profit. Could you keep us healthy at the same time? That'd be nice. So anyway, there are now legal standards in most countries for what counts as organic food. That particular word is generally the one that has legal definition to it. There are other things like authentic or natural food, and that's just a synonym without any legal repercussions. But there are now standards that basically says, okay, the organic milk, for instance, has to come from a cow that's free to graze. It's got no hormones. It's got no antibiotics unless it's actually sick. The previous 2 generations of cows have to have the same sort of deal with them. Sort of putting some trust in the ability of life to sort of self-regulate, and in some way this will produce better quality. And then, certainly regulations. There's debate over the regulations, too, about whether they're stringent enough, or certain parties can, lobby for this, that, other thing. If it has some organicness in it, but then we throw in other stuff that's not organic, and how much stuff do we throw in? We change the rules so it's not organic. Yeah, it's true. I will say organic food does cost more, but it's not necessarily. There's some people who claim that it's unsustainable, and there's other people who claim no, actually, if you do it right, yada yada, it is sustainable, which is cool. In any case, when I'm at home anyway, and I have the ability to purchase some, I always get organic milk, because you may not know this, am a copious consumer of milk. It's my habit forever, just like the standard drink. I'm gonna get some milk. And the first time I ordered organic, it's like, oh my gosh. Maybe just because I'm a milk connoisseur, you know, and I know the differences or something. But every time I go to college, the only milk I can get up here is like, you know, the regular non-organic kind. And then I go home and get a glass of organic milk, and it's like, oh my gosh, it tastes real. I'm not even sure what adjectives to apply to that, but it's like, this is clearly superior. Not like flavored or anything, it just, like, better. And so, you know, I like the idea. I like the idea of, you know, limiting our exposure to potentially harmful contaminants and plenty of other things. You know, I don't know, a power plant or whatever puts smoke in the sky, and the company's like, no, the smoke is fine. And then 20 years later, it turns out, oh wait, actually, it causes cancer or whatever. There's a lot of long-term effects of these seemingly slight things. And it's your food. It's not something you're going to avoid, right? And within some amount of debate, you know, it's supposed to be sustainable and it's supposed to be, you know, more healthy, better tasting, and yada yada, things like that. So I'd say at least try it out. You know, it's a pretty good idea, and we define the idea better, the whole practice of the food creation, everything, and get some more studies off to find out the exact thing. You know, maybe we'll find out more precisely what ought to be done in terms of food. In the meantime, I say definitely give it a try, you know? It's good stuff. Thanks for watching. See you later.